Hey YouTube people, I want to do a quick video which is a little bit different than my norm. I'm not quite sure how I'll label this video, but essentially it's going to be about a Condor wheel chock and a proper way to attach your motorcycle to a trailer. I picked this. I just took my motorcycle on a really long trip. I took it up to Canada, and which was quite a bit of travel for me from down here in the south. And the tire chock that I used to have, it just didn't work, and so I went ahead and upgraded to a Condor. I never had trailered this bike before. I did my old one, so I decided to upgrade and got this Condor. And when I was doing my research, I was watching some videos online just to kind of sort of compare different videos. Different tire chocks, and I made up my mind to buy the trailer-only tire chock. My motorcycle is a center stand, so I didn't want the aluminum garage. I think they call it the pit stop. I chose the SC2000. But there was a couple things about the video, the infomercials, I guess you want to say, they're little demonstration videos that kind of it kind of chapped my ass a little bit. Their demonstration, when they rolled the different motorcycles into the tire chocks, they tried to make the tire chock look so amazing that all you need is two straps, and they grab the rear foot pegs and they bring it forward and down, strap it down. And so essentially, like I said, they have two straps that's basically pulling the bike into the tire chock. And then they pull the bike left and right and say, look at there, it's amazing. I personally find it to be completely irresponsible and just pure ignorance. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why. This tire chock, the way it's designed, is you have two plates on the bottom, here and here. These plates right here are designed to be bolted to your trailer base. When you take your tire chock and you lay it on these bases, it's held in place by four little teeny tiny wussy screws. And when I say wussy screws, I do actually mean a simple little tiny little screw. Four of these little things. Now, the problem is that when you put your bike in this tire chock, and you got the front tire resting in the front and the tire kind of wedged in the cradle, slightly floated, it's kind of naturally wanting to keep it forward, and then you of course strap it in forward and down like the video of their demonstration shows. The problem is that there's nothing that keeps your bike from going forward except for this bracket right here, and that's fine, except for the entire wheel chock is just held down by four little teeny tiny screws. Now you think that's more than enough. It's not. This motorcycle weighs about 900 pounds. I don't know if you remember your physical science class from high school, but kinetic energy is 1/2 the mass times velocity squared, or speed squared. So a 900-pound motorcycle, let's say 40 mile an hour. Let's say that you're driving and someone pulls out in front of you, you hit the brakes and you hit somebody. Let's say 35 or 40. I calculate 40 mile an hour impact, just to give you an idea. So 900 pounds at 40 mile an hour is 65,266 joules of energy. We don't really mess with joules, but you can convert your joules of energy to foot-pounds, and that turns this 900-pound bike into 48,137 foot-pounds. This ain't going to hold it. And you are responsible for your cargo. You have an accident, your stuff comes out, injures, causes damage, that's your responsibility. So putting your motorcycle, your prized possession, your investment into this nice tire chock, and then doing something so stupid and irresponsible as using two little teeny tiny Chinese probably made nylon straps to keep it pulled into the tire chock is irresponsible on Condor's behalf and completely should not be followed. It's just bad advice. Use common sense, use more straps. You need to strap your bike forward and into the tire chock. You also need to strap it down and back and keep it from tipping side to side. Now, that said, going back to the Condor chock, I really like the Condor chock. It is a very nice device. They know how to make a proper, good, well-designed tire chock. They're just obviously not logistics experts. The other thing with the tire chock, my recommendation, I don't know why, it's not really in the instructions, but it's in all the videos and all the pictures, and almost everybody uses it the same way. And on top of that, I don't know if they ship that way evidently. The plates on the bottom, they're always placed here where I've got this one, and right here. You see on the inside there are 7 holes down the inside on each side. That's 14 total, 7, and that's for these. Now, if you're going to put this in your trailer, you might as well just bolt it down here. You can put 4, 6 bolts easy, but you have 14 holes in here, and that would secure this properly. But if you wanted to use these extra brackets on the outside, just make sure you strap your bike down so the weight of the motorcycle is under control. But the plates are placed here and here. Now this keeps the chalk is gapped off the floor because of the thickness of these plates. And so whenever you have your plate here and here, where my thumb and my finger are, back here in the back is suspended. So when you drive your bike home and it gets up into here, all of a sudden you've literally turned this into a seesaw and you've created leverage, a lot of leverage. And it's going to pivot right here at the fulcrum, at this rearmost piece, which is going to pull up on the front. And remember, it's just held in by these little weenie screws. So there's no reason that these brackets are so close together in the front. Spread them out. You've got 7 options on the inside. I could actually put it all the way back here. Now, depending on where you put your pivot at, because you have options, you need to put this bracket either in front of it or behind it because the pin will go across them. But what you need to do is figure out where your chalk's going to, your saddle's going to sit, and put your rear bracket somewhere in the rear vicinity. That way, when you're pulling the bike on, the weight is on top of this one, and it's not creating a leverage, putting undue stress on these little weenie screws or even your bolts to the trailer floor. All right, now other than that, I like the tire chalk. It's got a good, it's just well made. It's kind of neat, it's simple. It's worth a couple $100 all day long. Because even if you got a re bike, you could sell the thing for $100, $150, get most of your money back. Now that said, I'm going to go also make sure that you check your clearance, because this one right here comes dangerously close to my rear fender. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to trim, in order to plate this where I put this where I want it, I'm going to have to trim a little bit off of this to clear that fender. Don't waste your time emailing Condor about fitment issues. They just won't email you back. So I had to jack my bike up, get it off the ground, and take my wheel chalk and lay it up underneath the tire and check this, because once you ramp it in there and this thing fulcrums forward, you're going to trash your rear fender. If it's anywhere close to it, you better test fit it by hand. Don't, whatever, unless you just like tearing your fenders up. All right, so I'm going to go on to the next part of this video, and that's properly strapping your bike down. The tire chalk is a good, when you put the bike in the tire chalk, it sits right upright. It doesn't want to move, so you can get off your bike. But most people, they strap their bike down, and most people do it this way. They strap them down by the lower tree, right up here. I guess you can see. I have to back the video up, but you know, let's see here. Most people, they run a strap around the lower tree, down to the ground, and somewhere in the back, either a foot peg or the frame or the swing arm, and down to the corners. Now, in this bike particularly, it's very difficult to strap it by these lower trees because I have double brake lines and an ABS line that's back behind this fairing. Plus, my fairing comes down over the lower tree to make a nice clean look. And you got to be careful how far forward you go. So, you know, that's something you have to really pay attention to whenever you're strapping your bike down. Personally, what would be great, everyone has seen like the European vehicles where that's got a little space in the front bumper where you can go to your trunk and get that little screw-in D-ring. There's no reason motorcycle manufacturers are not putting some kind of a quick detached D-ring where you can put it in and twist lock it, and right below the neck bearings. There's plenty of room right there, and it puts it on the frame and not on the trees, away from everything. It's just a better place to put things. But anyway, some people I have seen online strap their bikes down by the bars. And to be honest with you, they should get a good kick in the balls. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. There's nothing structural about the handlebars on a motorcycle, especially a 900-pound motorcycle. Not only to mention that, you've got it laid across a throttle, which is typically held in place by nothing more than a plastic ring where the push-pull throttle is on the inside of the cube, and the other side handle's glued on. But again, on top of everything, it's your bars. They are not designed to hold the weight and stress of a motorcycle. If you strap your bike down by the bars, you're a dumbass. I've seen some people strap their bike down right here. Now, this one is slightly possible, and the reason that is is because if I take the this little wind deflector off, I'm actually down here low, and I'm not on the hollow tube, I'm on the strut, which is still technically hollow but stronger than this. I can get down here on the lower portion underneath my painted fender, and I could technically put a strap around this and pull it down. I'm still not going to do that. I've seen some people actually lay them up here, depending on if their forks are inverted or not, up here where it's literally sitting on the back of their fender where it's rubbing the paint. I'm not doing that. I don't know if I could ever recommend that. Will it hold a bike? Probably. Could it tear something up on your bike? Probably. Here's an idea. I owned a tow service for many years in a pretty heavily needed city. And I did a lot of towing. And the one thing you have to understand when you're towing anything that has a suspension, you have what's called sprung weight and unsprung weight. Now, if you strap something down by the sprung weight, which is what you do if you grab it up here at the trees or the forks, the problem that you run into is that you have this is not the straps I use, just an example. You have your hook and you strap your bike down, and if the bike bounces, this hook can come undone. So people typically will strap their bike down excessively to try to make sure they get a lot of the suspension out of it, so it won't bounce as much. And that's how you blow out your fork seals or your air shocks or whatever else. You can strap your bike down by the sprung weight, but try not to strap it down much more than what you would have if you just have a couple riders on it. Obviously, I don't get on my motorcycle and squat my front end much more than about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. The problem is when you do that, the bike, especially this one, as much suspension travel it's got, it can come undone. So therein lies some of the issue that you have when strapping your bike down. There's a couple of ways you can prevent that. You can strap it down by the unsprung weight. If you've ever seen a car hauler going down the road with vehicles on the trailer, you'll notice that they'll put the straps around the tires and then strap that down to the trailer. And the car bounces, but the tires are sitting and held firm. You can do that with your motorcycle with one small addition. Now, how do I do it? When I put my tire in my tire chalk, and everybody's fender's a little different. Focus this inside the tire chalk. It's basically wedged between here and here. What I do is I take my strap and I go under my fender to the back of my tire, right where that strut is, and I strap it down. Now what that does is that pulls my tire down in the tire chalk. It's not going to come out if I've got the tire pulled down, and the bike can bounce and move, so whenever you hit a bump, the bike is absorbing the bump. The suspension is allowed to move. It's like it does, just like it does when you're driving down the highway. But if you strap your tire into the tire chalk and let the bike suspension move, you don't have to worry about hooks coming undone. Some people will actually run a strap around the tire and around the front of the tire chalk, or they'll run it around the rim rather and to the front of the trailer. That can be done as well, just to kind of keep it pinned into the tire chalk. But you can strap it. Now, if your fender comes low and you can't pull your strap through over the tire easily, what you can do is, I'll do it one way here, you can circle it underneath your rim. I'll give you an example. Bear with me, I wasn't prepared for this part. Again, this is not the strap I use. I keep my straps in a box so they're clean. So what you can do is you take your strap, like I just showed you, and you can run it up under your fender, all the way back to where you're over the apex of the tire, where you're going to be pulling it down. And if your fender, like I said, hangs low, like some Harleys do, where your straps may hit the bottom of the fender, you take your straps and you cross it through your wheel, and your other side through the wheel this direction. And you strap it down this way. You strap it down that way. I've encircled it around my tire and rim, and it's not going to cause any damage, and it's off my fender, and I can strap it down that direction. That's if you have a low slung fender. I don't have that problem. Now, if you choose to go that route and you strap your wheel down to the front, You can also add 2 straps to your lowers or to your crash bars. Make sure your crash bars are somewhat structural. I've got a Stratoline over here where it's not structural. I wouldn't use the crash bars on that. I would just go to the frame. But in this bike, I pretty much don't, the crash bars bolt top and bottom. I would not use the crash bars to strap down the entire weight of the bike by itself, but when I have the front wheel sunk in here, I will maybe pull 1 inch of suspension with the crash bars. It's not a lot of stress on the crash bars, but it's just enough to kind of keep a little bit of the side motion down as well. Now, that said, now I've got my wheel strapped tight into the chock. It's not going to come out. It's not going out of it whatsoever. Secondly, I've got a little bit of the suspension pulled down, not much, no more than what would be if I have a rider or 2 riders on it. The second thing I do is I go to the back and I strap the back down. And the way I strap the rear down is I grab the foot pegs. I grab the foot pegs and I pull them down almost at an exact side angle. I don't need but a little bit of rear motion or just a side, and that's more or less just to keep the bike from rocking. And I also need to keep the rear tire from skipping. You got to remember, it's typically on wood in a trailer. The front's locked in place. The back is not entirely locked into place. So if you're going around a left-hand or right-hand curve and you hit a bump, or your trailer goes wide and goes off the road and the rear end of this bike hops, it can come around and turn. So you need to keep the rear end pinned. So I use the rear foot pegs because they're sturdy enough and they mount straight to the frame. I can also use my bag guards. They are designed to hold the weight of this bike. If this bike goes over on the side, that will keep that actually structural, and it will set up on that bar. There's a beam underneath it that goes to the chassis. I can use that, but I typically use this. And I use this just for side to side, just like I said, to keep the bike to sway down. And also keeps the rear end from skipping side to side. And then I go through my back tire and I go to a rear set to prevent the bike from going forward. So what I've got here, I've got 1 strap in my rear tire that's locked in. It goes through the rim backwards, strapped down. So the bike's got prevent the bike from going forward in an accident. I've got 2 side straps to prevent yaw or left and right motion. And that's going to keep my sway down. I'll also have 2 straps to my crash bars in the same fashion to prevent the yaw and pull a little bit of the suspension down. And then lastly, I've got my front unsprung weight tied down, so I have no more than about 1/2 inch of compression on my suspension, which is no more than me riding the bike. My bike is allowed to move with the road, which is what it's designed to do. If the bike is floating, I have less weight and stress on my straps. And I've also got the unsprung weight in the rear locked down. I've got the unsprung weight in the front locked down. So I don't have to worry about my straps coming loose from a hook. And that's how I secure my motorcycle. And that is about, I think, all I wanted to, I guess, get in this video. Feel free to put any comments down there. Ignorant comments will be deleted. Keyboard commandos will be deleted. I just try to keep it somewhat civil. If you don't agree with what I've got on this video or some of the content that I have, feel free to share it, but do it in a somewhat respectable way. And that's about it. I hope I help some people understand I guess I ain't gonna say the science, but some of the physics of strapping down a motorcycle, where you don't have to compress your suspension, and the difference between a sprung weight and unsprung weight. Hope this helps, and feel free again to put me some comments down there, and I'll try to respond to them when I can. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks.